Hi folks, this is Felix from Cracker.com, and today we're going to take a look at the new Apple iPad. Yes, I'm sure you're probably sick of hearing about the iPad by now, so we'll keep this video short and sweet and just really to the facts, and then our initial impressions of the of the device. You won't really see us get into some of the applications that you've already seen, countless reviews and countless video clips. So we'll try to show you some of the cooler applications that we've already downloaded that really make use of the iPad. So first and foremost, if you're familiar with using the iPod or the iPhone or the iPod Touch, then you'll be right at home with the iPad. This 9.7-inch glossy display, which is a fingerprint magnet, as you probably may or may not be able to tell already, has one single home button up at the bottom, a 30-pin dock connector, the built-in speakers, which are adequate, volume control on the right-hand side, a lock that locks the orientation of the screen. So if you're reading a book, you can keep it in portrait or landscape or whatever mode you feel comfortable in. Nothing on the left-hand side. A stereo jack in the upper left-hand corner, the upper right-hand corner, a power button. The back side, you have a smooth aluminum curved surface. Familiar with that if you're using any of the current models of the MacBooks. Very, very reminiscent of that. Okay, so just for comparison, here's the iPod Touch, upside down that is. This is right from the get-go. It's about gives you about a little over 4 times the real estate space of the iPod Touch. You press that button. It's 12:35 in the afternoon here on Sunday. If you have pictures synced to your iPad, you can turn your iPad into a digital photo frame with the touch of a button. Really useful if you have a dock that lets you position the iPad upright. Have your friends come over, take a look at your pictures of our dog. Slide to unlock if you're familiar with that. Brings us to the familiar desktop interface that you know and love, or hate, depending on where you're coming from. The first thing to note, the iPad is wicked fast. The A4 processor inside the custom-built Apple A4 is just a dream to use. I mean, this is one of the most responsive touch-oriented devices ever. Oh, I might as well talk about the keyboard. Here's the keyboard from a portrait standpoint, and here's a keyboard from a landscape standpoint. We're not fans of this virtual keyboard. In many ways, I mean, maybe I'm not used to it yet, so it could be the case. But right now, I type much faster using the iPhone or iPod Touch than I do on the iPad. But luckily, if you have a Bluetooth keyboard, you can pair the Bluetooth Apple keyboard with this device, and you can use it with the physical keyboard. Okay, so right from the get-go, like I said, it looks like a ginormous iPod Touch. The iPad supports nearly all of the same applications that the iPhone or the iPod Touch supports. It also supports, and that's like over 150,000 applications, mind you. But you probably don't really want to use those applications because they'll show up in a kind of a small windowed version. So here's an example of one such application. Let's look for it. Like Amazon's application shows up as a small little app. You can hit the bottom right-hand corner 2x and make it larger, but things look a little pixelated, just a little bit. You can't really tell from this angle, but it's not optimized for that. Press the button, bring it back down. So, what is an example of an application optimized for the iPad? Well, first and foremost, iBooks. So here's an iBooks, one of the new features that's being introduced along with the iPad. Apple supporting the notion of selling ebooks now through their marketplace. Here's your personal iBooks library. I've already downloaded a couple books on Stephen King's Under the Dome, which I can open up. I can flip through pages using my fingers, gestures. I can switch font sizes. I can go back to the library at any point in time. I can go to the store, the iBook store, purchase more books. The iPad also supports the EPUB format. Those of you who are Kindle fans, fear not. Of course, you can always use the Kindle application, and there is already one that's been rewritten specifically for the iPad. So this is a book I purchased over Kindle. I can flip through it also. So the Kindle application is great. So, yes, Amazon may suffer in terms of Kindle device sales, but for those who have already a vested interest in Kindle ebooks, you can get that obviously here, just like you can get it on the iPhone or the iPod Touch. Here's another application that makes great use of larger real estate space. Here is Spider-Man, or here's Marvel Comics. I can, flip through an issue of Spider-Man, if it lets me, tap into a frame, go from one frame to another. It's awesome. And really this showcases what you can do with a larger screen. really the iPad is a canvas for application developers to be able to showcase information and content in a whole new way thanks to the larger screen space, and for consumers to really be able to digest and interact with this with the content in new ways. Another case in point, Scrabble, paid application, but it's just a joy to use on a larger screen. And it's loading, and it has a cute little innovative way of showing it it's loading using letters and a tile. I can play now, like it's a computer. Your nice screen space. I have everything here. I can load up stuff. I can just drag. Let's say I want to do told. And I can just play it. Bingo. And the computer will now play something and probably, create something way better than a set of words, a set of letters way better than mine. It's 10-10. But anyway, so, again, a new form factor, new way of presenting information, a cool game. Very, very nice. Flip through things. Here's an application for Yahoo Entertainment. Been reworked for the Apple iPad. For those who are really into celebrities and whatnot, entertainment news, I can click in, tap into it. Left-hand usage for whatever reason I'm never really comfortable with. Anyway, you have this nice tiled interface, very familiar. For those of you familiar with Windows Phone 7 series, or Windows Phone 7, I guess now it's been renamed. It looks like that. Tap into that. Brings us into the article. Pretty cool. Here's another app. Let's see. Let's find Gilt. Gilt's one of my favorite sample sales websites. Lets you purchase things online. Women's, men's. Here's a new way of looking at it. If you're familiar with the Gilt application for the iPhone, it looks very different now, or it looks slightly different. I can take a look at all the sales. I can zoom in. I can take a look at the item of clothing that I really want, I'm interested in purchasing. I can scroll up and down, go to a different sale, and have it all load up. This is all going over Wi-Fi, which explains the speed at which data is coming. Okay, so what else do we have here? Pandora. Of course, Pandora is one of my favorite applications. This will probably launch one of my radio stations, which is here. It's the Fray. And that's music being streamed over Wi-Fi instantly from Pandora's music streaming service. I have a new way of taking a look at the artist at hand. I can do things like bookmark this song, bookmark this artist. Very cool. And it's very different looks different from what you might find on the iPhone or iPod Touch. Speaking of the iPod, here's the iPod been slightly reworked. As it loads up, I can load up Death Cab for Cutie. Here are all the different albums available. I can bring up Death Cab for Cutie, tap that, control volume control, make a Genius list out of this. Go to the next song, which might be from Death Cab for Cutie Transatlanticism album. Well, of course, the iPod is one of those few applications that can run in the background. Speaking of which, yes, no multitasking. You all know that by now. But really, just to culminate all of this information. Oh, before I forget, here's Safari. Here's the New York Times, the full web. As you probably know very well by now, the iPad, just like the iPhone and the iPod Touch, does not support Adobe Flash. So if you're browsing full interactive websites that make heavy use of Flash, forget about it. That's not going to work here. What you want is HTML5 enabled websites. You want content that's either static or that's just non-Flash. That's really what it boils down to. Hopefully one day we might find Flash, but until that day comes, we're going to have to live with that. Here's the New York Times. There's something really cool about being able to read the New York Times. That's one of my favorite news sites around the web. And just flicking through it in the palm of your hand. Okay, very fast. Again, thanks to a wonderful A4 processor. So, what we have here so far is a great tablet. Tablets have been around for decades now, but really this is the first consumer-friendly tablet that a person can pick up and know how to use, thanks obviously to the iPod and the iPod Touch and the iPhone. But everything just makes sense. There's no start button. There's no windowing interface to deal with. The iPad just works. We have a consumer-friendly device with approximately 10-hour battery life. That's fairly lightweight. It's easy to purchase applications, easily download applications. There's no worry about how to do this or that. So here it is, folks, the Apple iPad. I hope you enjoyed this quick overview. Have a great day.